Next, we'll go on to the area on how to solve the problems. I'm not again gonna go into micro details, but I'm gonna give you a high level idea on how to address these problems and how to solve all these problems. I'm just having the same list again here. Performance. The basic thing to do if you're new in a company, if you want to make an impact, if you think the app is not performing well, you don't have to go search for experts, you don't have to go search for things which you don't know. Just go to Google's Lighthouse and run a performance script. It already tells most of the things which you need to do to fix your performance on a basic level. And strangely, many companies or many products doesn't do that. It's like there are so many low hanging fruits. Just adding some attributes to image tag can boost your performance. And just adding few lines in your webpack config can split the bundles better and can boost your performance. And also you can add strategies like async differ if it's a plain HTML site, or you can add strategies like prefetching or splitting the bundles into multiple parts. And also when it comes to bundle splitting, sometimes yes, it's good to split the single JavaScript bundle into multiple bundles and load them as per need. But also you can't split it too much. You can't split bundles like button bundle, the form bundle like that. Why? Because parallelly every browser allows just 6 API calls. So if you create many bundles, it will, though the bundle size is small, there'll be a lot of API calls. And until all the API calls are done, your app is not going to be functional. So it's always safe and it's always recommended to split your bundle at the right aspect. That means you need to split your bundle so that your app doesn't make so many API calls, and at the same time it doesn't call the unwanted code or import the unwanted code, and at the same time you don't have one single bundle which is like huge in size. So the code splitting thing is like an art. You need to make calls based on your, sometimes on your hunch, sometimes on the data, and it's also a repetitive thing, iterative thing. You can't just decide right away in one go. You need to keep experimenting. And next thing about performance is your, if it's a backend API response, you need to fine optimize your code, uh, find different ways of making API calls or making calls to your database, communicating with your database. And also mainly with the performance, with the front end performance thing, now recent days there has been major changes. If you see Next.js, it's doing a lot of things out of the box. But what I will recommend is go deep, go into Next.js image component. That's like beautiful. If you see it, they will do a lot of optimization for images. You can copy things from such frameworks who have already achieved things and improve your performance. And mostly this performance thing will make people turn towards you, because not just your performance is better for user, but Google has recently, or not recently, maybe for more than a year now, has made it mandatory for people to make their websites performing, because they changed their SEO strategies. Only high performing websites will be listed on the top. If the high website is not performing really well, its SEO ranking will go down. No matter what keywords you use, no matter what black hat SEO strategies you use, eventually, if your site is not mobile friendly, if your site is not well performed, if it's very slow, it will go down than your competitor. So if you want to be in par with your competitor, if you want to be on top of Google's result, now it has become even a business need. And code splitting, like we spoke, code splitting, I also covered a part of it in performance. But when it comes to user code splitting or developer code splitting, it's always important to split your code at the right proportion. We already spoke about it. Like I told you that 150 to 200 lines is ideal, but depending on your usability, it can actually go up to like 400 or 500 as well in like exception case. And also don't split too much code, because sometimes it's okay to have like smaller components in the same file of other components. Of course, there is some blind rule that one React file should have only one component, but that is when you are going to reuse this component. Few components we don't reuse. We use only as a child for another component. Those can stay in the same file. You don't have to create a new file for that component and just import it in only one file. Only when the React component is going to be used in multiple components, put it in a separate file, even if it's like one line of code. Otherwise, try to avoid the number of lines or the code. Third thing is usability. How to solve usability issues. This is more of a practical issue. You need to go meet frequently with your designer. You need to know your stuff well. You need to know your UX, or you need to know your type of users and application really well. And when the designers are making designs, when they make the wireframes, you need to have meetings with them. You need to interact. You need to know what they are going to build, how it's going to look, what are the features they are going to add. And also there should be a review meeting. Before they finalize the design, you need to sit with them and review the design. And mostly visualize the design in a browser or in a computer and see how things will work when you build it. Also, sometimes they may add like very fancy animations, but it can actually lag your applications, mainly if it's a React Native application. For web, yes, it's still okay, but in React Native application, heavy animations can sometimes make your application laggy. Then you need to explain the designer why this can't be done and all the things, and then make it more usable for the user. Next thing comes the reusability. Like I said, this is the only problem which when you solve, you will also be recognized in the society or in the community at least. How? So remember this 10% rule. What is this 10% rule? When you face any problem in your day-to-day activity, or when you're building some application, first see if there is a solution available on the internet for this particular problem. If there is a solution, use it. Just forget about it. Fine. If there is no solution, then build a solution. And then think whether will someone in your organization will face the same problem again. If they will face it, extract it into a reusable utility or reusable component. And then go one step again, and then think whether this problem will be faced by other people in the community, other people in the other companies and all that stuff. If yes, don't copy your office code, but you know your problem, right? Spend 10% and make it more generic, because right now you solved your problem for your work. So it's not very generic. It may not cover all edge cases, but if you're going to solve it for the community, spend 10% and make it more generic and build it, and then add some more time and publish it as an NPM packages. Right now, if you see, most people write blogs. I mean, probably all of you here would have written at least one blogs. And many people, even before starting their career, they are stars in YouTube. They create beautiful content. So mostly, almost everybody are content creators these days. Everybody or want to be influencers these days. Then how do you stand out of them? I'm writing a blog, you are writing a blog, he's writing a blog. How do you stand out? No, but code is still rare. Not many people still create beautiful NPM packages, beautiful solutions, beautiful ideologies, or beautiful way of solving things. Still, people are always into this fancy things, and still they go behind writing blogs and creating videos and making Twitter post or LinkedIn post, but they actually don't create tools for the community. By it may not reach, say, if you write a beginner friendly blog, there can be 100 people or 1,000 people reading it. But if you create a utility, you may be feeling a bit bad, but then you will have quality visibility. That what I mean by quality visibility. When people see that, I will not search for your solution unless I face that problem, right? Only when I face a problem, I'll search for the solution in the internet, and I'll find your tool. And when I find your tool, I'll be like, wow, somebody else thought about it. And then I'll start using your tool. And if it's like amazing, I'll search for you. I'll follow you. And I am your quality follower. But if I read your blog and I follow you, I will forget you eventually. I mean, if somebody asks you immediately on whom you people know, most beginners will tell people who create blogs and who create videos, and they are like extremely famous. And also those people created blogs and videos way ahead when nobody was creating. But as people get more experienced, for me, most people I admire are the ones who create beautiful tools. They may not have big following, and if they do something, I blindly trust them because I trust their code. I see their code and work. And this also helps you get a better job. Days are gone where, as I'm an interviewer too. The back then when I interview people, if they have written a blog, I'll be like happy because they want to share knowledge and they are like proactive, and then I'll be like positively attracted towards them. But right now, yes, still I'm positively attracted towards them. But right now everybody have blogs in their CVs. I don't see CVs without having a personal blog. Almost all people write blogs. So that doesn't give us special attention towards those people. However, when somebody has a npm utility, they might not even have more downloads for the utility. But still I'll be like so curious on why they decided to create this utility, what problems they tried to solve, how they ended up in this type of solution, and all the things. That gives a upper hand for such candidates. And if such candidate do a little bit bad in the interview also, I'll still have a positive attitude on hiring them, and I'll try to help them. Of course, if they're very bad, I'm not going to hire them, but I'll try to help them if they are getting stuck somewhere, because I would like to work with somebody who creates solutions, not just talks about it. So that is a upper hand for you. And even personally, in my opinion, the tools I have built, they don't have millions or trillions download every week. They have like 2000 downloads, 500 downloads, depending on tools. However, there is at least 5 to 10 emails in my email box every week saying that this tool is really helping them. They would like this feature. They would like to use this tool, or they would like to contribute to this tool. They would like to make it this better, and maybe they'll give me suggestions to develop it. And they form really brilliant connections. And most of these people are experienced developers in other companies, not just beginners. This also enables your networking into a more wider and more strong connections in your network. So reusability will help you not just solve your application problem, but also make you a better developer. Redundant code, definitely use tools like Webpack to avoid it for users, but also have regular checks. If you are going to keep a code for safety for some time, definitely add a comment like to do, remove it after so and so. And in your sprint, have 1 hour every sprint for your to do section. That 1 hour, all your developers should, what they should do is, it should be a common meeting, search for all the to dos in your code or in your repo, and see if you can solve those to dos, or if you need to remove something. This habit, if it's made regular, can actually maintain your application really well for a long time. Next thing is convention and standards. That's very pretty simple. You might have to say, if you're going to have custom conventions and standards, then it has to be a lot of conversations. You need, all people have to agree, and majority people, whatever they want, that should become your standards. But I don't think people do that anymore. We used to do that once, but right now just people use either Google standards or Airbnb standards, and they just follow it. They just migrate 1 or 2 things based on their application needs, but mostly they follow those standards. Anti-patterns. Coming to anti-patterns, this is a very interesting problem because sometimes the entire industry can say a pattern or a way of coding or way of solution as an anti-pattern. Because yes, it might have been an anti-pattern, but for your application and for your needs, it might not be an anti-pattern. For example, I'm not sure how many people know like dangerous inner set HTML, dangerously inner set HTML. That means rendering a HTML within a React component. This was considered as a security risk, or it can become a security risk, or it can be a anti-pattern for React in terms of performance and all the things. Yes, it is. But say if your application majorly depends on rendering HTML from the server dynamically based on user input, then you don't have a choice. You need to follow anti-pattern. So that doesn't become anti-pattern for you. That's just a right pattern for you. So in anti-patterns, solving anti-patterns are very easy, but finding the anti-patterns and making sure those are anti-patterns are the biggest or the major things. Next comes innovations. Many people, I mean, when I build tools, I don't build it for mass audience, or I don't build very beginner friendly tools. Mostly my tools are used by experienced developers because I create it for people who use few tools. It's like very niche, and it's not, it will, many people will not require the tools I built, but people who require it will definitely appreciate it. And most people ask me the questions like, how do you get this idea to build this tool, or how do you get this idea to use this tool in this way and write a wrapper around it? For this, the only thing I'll say is, stay in one company or in one project. It doesn't have to be a company, even if it's a one open source project or a side hobby project. Spend a considerable amount of time in it. I mean, you may see a few people saying stay in a job for this much time, that much time. Okay, I don't believe in that thing when it comes to job change. If it's toxic and if you don't learn there, and if the environment is not good, of course, I will suggest you to move from one job to another, even if it's like a short time. But just for a 10% or 20% salary hike, don't switch jobs so soon, because your part of your innovation starts kicking in only when you know the technology really well and the product really well. Because now, by the blink of your eyes, you will know the entire product in the code and it's working, and you will also know the technologies really well. Now your brain will start working on top of it. Now you will start finding what things can be done better, how it can be done better, and all the things. But if you're always in this beginner zone, like you stay in one company, you spend 1 year, you are just comfortable with the tools, with the process, with the code, with the technology, and then you jump to the next company, you will always be in this beginner mode, and you will always be this developer who just finishes your Jira task. You don't think way beyond above. So for being an innovator, or to solve a innovative thing in your application, you need to spend considerable amount of time in the application. Say if you are a frequent job jumper, maybe you need, your priorities are like salary and company brand and other things. I don't mind on that thing. But and if you want to be innovative in spite of being that, have a hobby project or side project which you consider yourself to be a production project. That means it should be deployed somewhere. It might not have many users, but it should be used by few people, and you should considerably in your free time spend time on it. That's how you can create innovative on this. Next thing comes to choosing right tools. How to choose right tools? That's very simple. First, see the frequency of commits and see the number of people committing to the right tool. That's the major thing, because you can find an exceptional tool solving your problem perfectly. But say, for example, in React Native world, there are so many tools, beautiful tools. They are brilliantly made, well maintained, all good. But they will be maintained only by a solo developer, or probably one or two people who made like 5-6 commits, not more than that. And recently React Native crossed its 0.70 version. Believe me, it will take at least 2 more years for all those beautiful tools to get migrated to the newer version of React Native. Now, if I want to migrate my application to newer version of React Native, I will have to wait for all those tools. Even if one tool doesn't migrate, I'll need to wait for that tool to migrate so I can use it in my new tool, my new version. This is a problem, right? So when you choose the tool, you need to see whether if it's backed by a company, well and good. It's at least there will be some progress, and even if it's slow, there will be like continuous efforts into it. If it's not backed by a company, there should be multiple people owning and maintaining it. Only then you will see like some response, because there's a tool called React Native Picker Select. That is an issue with it. I made a PR 3 months back. Nobody until now. I'm ready to contribute to the tool. I'm ready to fix for the tool because it's an open source and community tool. But the owners or the maintainers are not even having the time to review my PR or approve my PR. I wouldn't blame them. They may have their own, it's just open source and it's free work, which we do for community. So you can't demand or argue or expect from people. However, if say instead of one single owner, if there are like 4 people who are maintaining it, at least one will have time to comment on my PR or review my PR. So this is how you need to be very cautious on what tools you choose. And this mostly goes into the section where most people try to use the simplest tool. Few tool will have good maintenance and things, but it will be hard to understand the documentation, and there'll be a lot of customization you need to do to use the tool. And there'll be one more tool, which is like you use like 4 lines of code, and this tool will be using the first tool underneath. And a developer like me will use the first tool, write some wrapper on it, make it very simple to use for users. So our users will start using the second tool. And the second tool, you can use it with just 4 lines of code, and you get attracted to it. However, what I will do after 1 year, I'll get bored and I'll not maintain this. However, the first tool, which has a lot of customization, will be backed by a company and maintained for decades. So this is how, maybe if it's a hobby projects, I myself also will choose the tool number 2. But for a production app, always choose the right tool. Communication. Of course, if it's a big company, huge company with a lot of people, you need to write docs manually, maintain it, and it should be part of your pull request process itself. Before even approving your pull request, there should be proper docs in place for a huge company. But for a mid-sized company or a smaller company, docs are still important. But if you are lazy to write docs, or if your priorities are much more than docs, and you think right now the team is smaller and you don't need docs, and you need to bootstrap your product really quick to go to the market, then use auto-generated docs, because that way you set it up only once. However, the docs will be automatically generated for each PR, and it will be always up to date and maintained also. That way you will also have some idea about the docs, and maybe not the perfect docs, but something is there for new joiners or for when the team gets big and all the things. Also, having good test cases covering edge cases serves as like proper docs, because for developers, a test case with all the edge cases covered will give a proper understanding of the component rather than reading the code. So that is also a good way of having docs. This is how you identify what are the problems and how you solve the problems. Next thing is more practical in a working environment, when to solve these problems. Performance. Before, it used to be an issue with performance, because people will be like, okay, let's build this. Performance is important, but let's build this feature, roll it out, and then we'll focus on performance. But there will always be another other feature waiting for you to get built. So how do you convince your company or people to get it, get your work to be done on performance? Because I think as a developer, people love to work on performance because they learn a lot instead of just writing components and CSS all day. So how to convince your team for solving performance? Google helps you, because they changed their algorithm and they changed their SEO ranking. Now you can say if your site is not performing, it doesn't matter what number of features you build, people are not going to come in because it will rank lower in SEO. Then the features are not important. This will put you on top, and it will get you priority to work on performance. Of course, code splitting comes under performance, so you can include code splitting and say it is also included in performance. Usability. This is again immediately it's a place where you need to focus immediately. Say, for example, if it's a horizontal vertical scroll issue, which I was talking about, those needs immediate attention. So you need to fix it immediately. However, there will be usability issues like where when I scroll, the scroll is a bit laggy, or there can be the secondary issues, right? They can wait. Of course, it affects your performance or affects your usability, but they don't have to be done right away then and there. It can wait for some time. Reusability and all the other things comes under tech depths. And it's very hard to convince product people and business people and ask time to work on tech depths. So how do you solve all the other problems, or how do you find time to work on all those other problems? Few things. First thing, have a regular time frame in your sprints. In your work, always talk to the business people and product people and allocate 10% or 5% or 20% every month into working on tech depths. This time, you should be very strict about not working on the product, but working only on the tech side of the product, not on the feature side of the product. This will help you maintain all the things like reusability, redundant code, anti-patterns, innovations, and docs, all these things. That is number one. Number two, sometimes you may think this 10% is not enough. Probably you will have to refactor, for example, this 5,000 lines of component, right? or maybe even bigger problems, then 10% might not be enough. What you can do now is split your problems. One bigger problem can be definitely split into many smaller problems. And whenever you find time, pick the smaller problem, solve it. And in no matter time, you will not realize you have already solved the bigger problem. But what most people do, they always aim at the complete picture and they want to solve the bigger problem immediately. And they will say, okay, I need like 3 weeks to fix this thing because it will make our app this better. And many product or business people might not accept, mainly in startups. However, if you get like, okay, half a day every week, I'll work on tech devs. And if you are able to split that bigger problem into multiple smaller problem, you can actually comfortably solve the bigger problem in probably say 3 months. Instead of not getting continuous 3 weeks and having the problem throughout your life, you can spend 3 months and finish it. One beautiful example for the splitting and doing thing is migrating to TypeScript. Many people want to use TypeScript, but they don't find the time to migrate to TypeScript. However, if you really understand things, TypeScript can work with JavaScript. JavaScript can work with TypeScript. So necessarily you don't have to migrate the entire code in one go. You need to spend like 1 or 2 days making the basic infrastructure configuration setup for TypeScript. And then every sprint, you can spend like 2 hours migrating 5 components into TypeScript. That's it. Eventually, in 3 months or 6 months, your entire code base will be in TypeScript. That's how you need to convince your company and solve it. Also, third thing about how to focus on tech devs is to show them visually, because a product or a build thing or a feature thing is visual for people to understand. But when you just go and say, okay, I'll do this code changes, I'll use this library instead of this library, and it will affect our product like this, nobody's going to get the trust, or nobody's going to even understand or get the vibe unless they're technical. Instead, when you're proposing something like this, show them something in visual, maybe a slide or maybe a benchmark. Maybe if you're going to use say you have tool 1 and tool 2, you are using tool 1, but if you think tool 2 is better, implement tool 1 and tool 2 in a dummy project, maybe in a Create React app, and benchmark it. Tool 1 takes 10 seconds to do it. Tool 2 takes 2 seconds to do it. So if you compare this, one developer runs tool 1 10 times a day, that is 100 seconds. So if I convert it into tool 2, every developer will save 80 seconds per day. That is engineering time and that is money. So if you give them the value, okay, if I spend like 5 days on this, per year in per company, per developer will save this much time, which is approximately equal to this much money. And that's a profit to the company. If you propose things like this, business and product will definitely agree to whatever you demand. I have done that, and I'm telling it with personal experience. And they will even give months freely to just work on tech stuff. So these are the ways of when to or how when to solve these problems and how to convince them. Also, always don't stick on the perfect solution. First, categorize your problems into what type of problem it is. If it's very urgent, just finish it off by any means. If it's like you have enough time, try to find a decent solution. But if it's like medium time, do a hacky solution, but with a comment or with a future note for yourself to make it a better thing. This is how you can handle with your company and people and get things done. All right. So summary, you need to solve a problem only when it's a problem. You don't have to imagine things, or just because you read a problem, you don't have to consider it as a problem and immediately start solving it. You need to be sure that whatever you are solving is a problem to your application, to your company, and to your developers. Second, if it's a recurring problem, not just for you or for the community or for the company, make it create a reusable solution. Then, if it's a production bug or if it's a very immediate problem which needs immediate solution, don't think about code quality there. Just find a hacky solution. But if it's like a decent problem with like manageable time, find an average solution. You don't have to make it like super reusable, super customizable and all the things. Third, if you have decent time, enough time, find a decent reusable solution. Never aim for perfect solutions, because perfect solution, nothing exists like perfect solution. If you all of you are using React, But if you see the first version of React, it's like very bad. Right now, it has grown multifold times and it has become a better solution. I still wouldn't say React is a perfect solution. However, with all this efforts that's going on, React will be a perfect solution at some point. You just have to, it's not like one time thing, it's like a marathon. You need to keep on making things better. You can't make it perfect in one go. When you have all these things, you will know what problems to solve, how to solve, and when to solve.